Good morning, everybody. We are live Sunday, September 5th, the week one of college football. We had some exciting games yesterday. We had some games on Thursday. We had some games on Friday. We got some games tomorrow. And me and my co-host, Rico McCoy, are going to break it down for you. How you doing this morning, Rico?
Hey, I'm here. I'm here late night, but it's always talk some ball, Nate. You know that.
I love it. I'm glad you're here, and I'm excited. I enjoyed getting to watch some college football. I enjoyed getting to watch some high school football on Friday. Any football of any kind to me is good. So I'm excited. We had some pretty good games going down. I think this is – I saw someone say this was the greatest week one matchups of all time. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I did think there were some pretty good games. And why don't we go ahead and kick it off and talk a little bit about probably the biggest matchup, which was the Georgia Bulldogs out of the SEC versus the Clemson Tigers.
I love
it. What did you think about that one, buddy?
I love it. I love it. Anytime Dabo Swinney loses, I'm gonna be on it. I told you that before. You know how I feel about Clemson. Defensive ball game. Team that makes the fewest mistakes will win. That's what it came down to. So, Georgia with the late interception, that decided the ball game. Man, it was good players versus good players, if you ask me. I mean, DJ still made some plays, but it's a revamped team, and they're on the old Clemson right now. And Georgia came out playing football, and it was a solid ball game. It was a game people should have enjoyed watching.
No, I agree with you. As a former defensive player, I love games like that. Give me a 10-7, 10-3 ball game any day of the week, and I will eat it up. And to be honest, Georgia, in my opinion, they fixed their biggest problem, which last year was the quarterback position. Don't get me wrong, JT Daniels didn't light it up by any stretch of the imagination. He didn't throw for 300 yards. He didn't throw 3 touchdowns, but he didn't make any mistakes. And, he looked calm, cool, and collected out there. And, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but old Stetson Bennett was not a SEC quarterback. That he looked like me out there with the pads on. I mean, the guy – I'm not trying to be mean, but he's a little guy. And he just looked out of place. The arm strength was not good. JT Daniels is definitely an upgrade. And, last night the Georgia offense didn't do anything spectacular, but they ran the ball pretty well. Zamir White had 13 carries for 74 yards, averaged almost 6 yards a carry. I like Kendall Milton. James Cook had some good plays, but, the main thing was their defense. Their defensive line dominated the Clemson offensive line. That's where this game was won. Yep. They had 7 sacks.
7 sacks.
7 sacks.
And the offense did not give them any. They didn't give Clemson any breaks. They didn't give them any handovers. You know what I mean? And I mean that's what made the difference in the game. That's what made the difference in the game. And Georgia was missing Pickens. You know what I mean? And it was noticeable because he's a big play guy. He arguably the number 1 receiver in college would have been his title this year if he hadn't torn that ACL.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's a huge loss to them. I love that guy. He's just a dude you can throw the ball to, and he can go get it. And they got Rosemy, Jack Saint back from the broken leg.
Yeah.
They had Jalen Johnson out there, but they had Jermaine Burton. But those guys, they're not as good as Pickens, in my opinion. And to be honest, if they didn't have that freshman tight end, Brock Bowers, their passing game would have been in trouble. So
in. Did he not step right in big boy football?
Wow, man. The first play of the game, he cuts across, beats his man, sits right down in the zone, and helps Georgia move the football. And I'm like, man, that guy's good. Who is that guy? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's their freshman tight end. And he was, he was their leading receiver. He had 6 catches for 43 yards and was also blocking people too. So I thought that was pretty impressive. Both teams actually had a pretty good game plan. The only reason this game was lost was that, Clemson just they could not block. Their offensive line, I think, is young. They're inexperienced, and it showed up. They had a total of 2 yards rushing.
Wow.
2 yards rushing. Can you believe that? I mean, when's the last time Clemson ran the ball for 2 yards?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. And, I got to be honest, too. I don't really know how to judge DJU's performance because it honestly wasn't really his fault. That guy had no time all day long to throw the football. I just don't think you can really put this loss on him. I know he threw that pick 6, and that was a big mistake, but the guy was getting hammered the whole game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, he had hit a lot more times. So, no, it's a fair game to evaluate him or to put all of the blame on him because we know he's a big-time player and he can make the throws. But when you're hit that often – and they sack you 7 times and they hit you even more than that, it's hard to sit in there and make accurate throws. So, I mean, I saw quite a few people bashing him, but, I mean, it was hot in that pocket, Nate.
Buddy, I haven't seen a guy in that much distress in a long time. I mean, he was uncomfortable from the get. This is a guy that proved last year in 2 pretty big-time games, Boston College and Notre Dame, that he could step in as a freshman and perform. And, last night he just didn't have any help. I mean, there was no blocking. There was guys in his face from the get-go. I recall a 3rd down in the first half where, they were rushing. It was a 3rd and long, and they were rushing 3 and dropping 8 guys in coverage. And, hell, they sacked his ass. I mean, like that, they sacked him. Yep. So, I mean, when you can just send 3 guys in a 6-man protection and sack the guy, that's not a good sign. So, my question to you is, where does Clemson go from here? Can they regroup?
And here's what I was just thinking. I mean, it's such high standards when you're a winning program like that. But can we just talk about this possibly being the year where they really have to, just regroup? I mean, they have to grow a little bit. They're going to have bumps and bruises right now. You've been producing first-round guys for the last 7, 8 years now. And guess what? This time, this transition isn't as smooth. It's being realistic. You're not going to hit on all your recruits every single time. Some guys need a little bit more time to develop. So do they have the guys there? Yes. Even our guy from Knox Catholic. They just need a little more time to develop. Everybody's not operating on that same, projection that you gave them. They're not just going to be able to come in and play right away, but give them time. Clemson just lost first-round receiver, second-round receiver, first-round DBs, a first-round quarterback, first-round running back. It's hard to just plug and play. Every once in a while, you're going to have to eat some. I mean, let's eat some shit till you get where you need to be, and that's where they are right now. Like you're not the big dog right now. You can work towards getting back there. You have the guy. Just give them more time.
Yeah, no, I agree. Trevor Lawrence he's been the starter there for 4 years, and that guy was pretty solid. But I think they're going to be okay at quarterback. It wasn't the quarterback causing them to lose last night. It was a young offensive line. Like you said, they lost a lot of wide receivers too. Cornell Powell's gone. Amari Rodgers, who's been there and been a dominant performer for 4 years. People don't like to talk about Amari for some reason, but I sure as hell do, because I saw him play for 4 years in high school, and I'm not just pumping him up because he's from my alma mater. I'm talking about him because he dominated at Clemson. He had over 1,000 yards receiving last year, and not to mention the touchdowns, not to mention the kick return duties.
That's where I was going with it, Nate. Like, he added way more value to that program than what people want to give him credit for. He didn't drop punts. He fielded the ball well. It was always positive. He always changed field position for you. Punt return, kick return. When there's a screen and he's not getting the ball, guess who's blocking the hell out of somebody? Amari Rodgers. These are things that people don't realize. When they're gone, it hurts your program. You need another receiver in there who's going to block the hell out of somebody until it's their time to catch. He's that hard-nosed, old-school football player, and now you got to fill in for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that started there, since he was a freshman and pretty much did everything. And there's a reason why he's going to be starting on Sundays and catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this guy is a big-time talent, and he was missed last night. This is a guy that knew how to get open. And, their receivers struggled a little bit last night. I saw some rust on Justin Ross. I mean, the guy hasn't played in almost 2 years.
Look at what Joe said. ACC is the cure. Well, I agree. They'll bounce back and look like heroes in no time. I agree.
Yeah, no, they had to play big boy football yesterday. I mean, this wasn't playing in the ACC. They had to play Georgia in week 1, and it's a little bit different when you got to play Georgia. Now, the good thing for them is they don't play Georgia every week. They got South Carolina State next week. They got Georgia Tech after that. And then they go to NC State, which might be a little more difficult, and then BC, Syracuse, and Pitt. So their schedule does get easier, and that should be a good thing for them because they need to get back on track. Next game, let's talk a little bit about the next game, which was supposed to be one of the biggest matchups of the day, and that is Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide versus the U. What do you think, buddy?
Will you give me my credit about the quarterback?
Yeah.
Hey, he's special, and he'll probably win the Heisman. Like, you took a great player and you surrounded him with very good players. What do you think you're going to get from that? Let me see. What's his stat line? 27 of 38, 344 yards, no turnovers.
And 4 touchdowns.
What'd you say?
And 4 touchdowns.
Easy, 4 touchdowns. And he made it look good.
He looked like he'd been starting for 4 years. I mean, he really did. He was calm. He was cool. He was collected. He averaged over 9 yards a pass, no interceptions. Like you said, 27 to 38, 344. I mean, we talk about Clemson and the guys that are gone. Well, a lot of guys were gone from Alabama, and you really couldn't tell it. I mean, Jamison Williams, 4 catches, 126 for a touchdown.
Your guy.
I tell you what, I was missing him. I was missing him after that game. He showed up, and man, I don't know. That was a big time breakout performance for him. I'm happy for the guy. I really am. I was cheering for him.
That was a great move for him, Nate.
Yeah.
It's paying off. Look at how he started the season. I was impressed.
No, I thought that was when he announced he was transferring, I was kind of like, I don't know. I don't understand that. This could have been a year he got more balls. And then they announced that he was going to Bama. And I'm like, that's a very, very smart move for him. And, it paid off in fold yesterday because he was the guy. And John Mechie looked pretty good. Some of those freshmen that you mentioned, Hall, got in the game late.
Got him a catch.
He got him a catch, and they broke those young guys in, but they didn't miss a beat. And it's just unbelievable. I know we talk about this all the time, but is it not unbelievable what he's done there, and what that program has done over the last decade to 15 years? I mean, they're the best team every year, and it's just like people don't even give them the credit that they're due, because it's a machine, and they just reload. And to be honest, Miami, I know I love De'Aaron King, and I do still love him, but man, he got to experience a little taste of the Bama D yesterday, didn't he?
Listen, he got to play against the machine. I mean, that's what Alabama is right now. They're just a machine. But what I was going to ask you, Nate, was this. Is this Jameson Williams guy the perfect example of how Bama –
There's a lot to manage in life right now.
What? I mean, because other schools get 4 and 5 stars, but they don't leave 4 and 5 stars. Bama gets 4 and 5 star guys, and they leave 4 and 5 star guys. Tell me if I'm wrong, Nate.
Yeah. No, they're
example.
No, they know how to use these guys, and they know how to develop talent. They know how to evaluate talent. It's been proven over the years, and me and you have seen guys that are 4 and 5 star guys that are questionable, right, to be that rate, to have that rating, but none of their guys are. I mean, they hit on every dude, it seems like, doesn't it?
It looks like they don't miss. And it's like they have a formula, man, or they just have a great eye and a great plan implemented over there, because guys come in. Like, think about it. When they say, oh, we got a big-time D tackle coming in, this guy's out there playing right away. Or we got a big-time receiver. He gets out there and plays. So is it the emphasis on coaching and development and digger deeper with these guys? Or, I mean, this Jameson Williams guy was riding the bench with Old State, and he comes here to the program, and he's the highlight reel. Come on, man. What can we do about it?
It's true. And what I think is interesting as well is, Sark got the the assistant coach of the year award last year for being the offensive coordinator for Bama. He parlayed that into a $6.5 million a year job down in Austin, Texas. And Bill O'Brien, who everybody hated and no one wanted, he becomes the offensive coordinator at Alabama. Well, he looked like a genius yesterday. I mean, I'd like to be the offensive coordinator at Bama one year.
Sign me up.
Yes, put me up in the box. I mean, and they were talking about it during the game, which I thought was interesting, was, Bill O'Brien's a control freak. I mean, love him or hate him, which most people hate him. He likes to do things his way. But I thought it was interesting. He comes into Bama, and he doesn't teach a new offense. He learns Bama's offense and Bama's terminology, and then, becomes the play caller, essentially, which, hell, I could call those plays. They're just better. They're better than everybody.
You could, but here's the thing, Nate. People come and go down there. The one thing that makes them tick is the head ball coach, okay? And it's almost to the point where, yeah, you're going to learn some things. And his coordinators may be nice, but, man, don't expect them to come in and have you an A1 program, because the writing's on the wall. It's Nick Saban that makes that program roll. He has the blueprint, and I don't think he's sharing that with people. Like, he brings in guys and he lets them know what he wants them to do, within what perimeters they can operate, but he knows how to run a program. And I don't think it can be duplicated by guys that just come and give 2-3 years here. I'm not buying. Me personally, if I'm an AD, I'm hiring a guy who's at a program who's actually doing it as a head coach. Because from watching these past coordinators and stuff, you just aren't Nick Saban, man. I can't give you but so much credit at Bama because the thing that keeps it going is Nick Saban, and you're not Nick Saban. Give me a guy who's coming off a couple 8, 9, 10-win seasons before I would take a coordinator from Bama because it's the Nick Saban effect. Let's be real.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, the perfect example is your boy JP, Jeremy Pruitt over there. I mean, he looked pretty good calling up the defense for Alabama, but you bring him over here to Knoxville and put him in charge, and man, it was not quite as pretty. And that's all I'll say. I'm not trying to be mean today.
Well, and another thing to go with that, Nate. Here's the other thing too. You have to know how to deal with people to be a head coach. When you're a coordinator, you're the leader of one side of the ball. When you're a head coach, you make everything. So every coordinator doesn't translate to a great head coach. That's just the thing. Now Pruitt can probably go somewhere and be a D coordinator and be fine, but it takes a different guy to be a head coach.
I agree. You got to be the CEO. I mean, you look at Urban Meyer and the success he's had everywhere he's gone. It's because A, he knows what the hell he's doing, and he can manage the program from the top to the bottom, and B, he surrounds himself with good guys, and that's what it takes to be to win in college football. You have to have the number one guy in charge, or else it's not going to happen for you. I mean, it's just the way it is, in my opinion.
I agree.
Well, why don't we jump over to the Big Ten for a moment, and let's rewind the clock and jump back in time to Thursday night because I'm sitting there in my scarlet and gray with my grandma's flag flying high out front, and I'm all peppered up and ready to go. And I got to be honest, I was a little nervous in the first half because Minnesota came to play, and I think people didn't think this was going to be a great game possibly and thought this might be a blowout because of what Minnesota did last year. Last year, you can just throw it out because Minnesota was missing 25 guys minimum every game they played off their roster due to COVID issues, injuries, and what have you. You saw what PJ Fleck can do, and you saw what that Minnesota program is really about on Thursday night. I mean, that's a good football team, and our young guys, including our quarterback who'd never thrown a pass before, they were a little surprised, and they were getting whipped a little bit in the first half. There's no doubt.
I wasn't surprised a bit. Like you said, that game last year, it doesn't count. The real football fans, we've seen what he can do. We've seen what he can do over there with Minnesota. They can come into your house and upset pretty much anybody. He's a fiery guy. He's full of energy. He gets his players juiced up, and he normally comes in with a pretty good plan on both sides of the ball. Like let's be real. When they show up, most of the time they perform. I wouldn't bet against those guys. So I was prepared for a dogfight, watching that Minnesota Ohio State game. And if they weren't thinking that, they were tripping. Like PJ Flex gets his guys juiced up. If you go back to 2019, Minnesota was all over the place. They played everybody good. They made it a great ball game. Like, let's be real. They went in and upset a couple teams in 2019. He has an eye for talent now. I was talking about PJ Flex with one of my coaching buddies the other day, and our conversation went like this. He turned down multiple jobs since being there, right?
Yep.
We think his goal now is probably to be the best coach ever at Minnesota. I don't see him leaving now, Nate. He's had plenty of opportunities. He plans on being in Minnesota forever. I think he get guys to come there, and he probably wants a statue outside of their stadium. I'm being honest.
No, I agree with you 100%. He could have gone anywhere he wanted after 2019.
Yep.
And he knew that 2020 was going to be, a struggle just with, trying to replicate what he did in 2019. I mean, Minnesota hasn't had a year like 2019 in years, in 40, 50 years. Even when they had Glenn Mason back in the 80s, they didn't play like they did in 2019, and he could have parlayed that into any job that was open. That's just my opinion. I really believe he could have gone anywhere he wanted to go, especially with his resume, winning 14 games at Western Michigan and doing what he did there and building that program up like he did. He then went to the Big Ten program and completely turned it around. He could have gone anywhere he wanted, but he's dedicated to that program, to his players. And I got to give him credit on Thursday night. That game plan, his scheme was flawless.
Yeah.
The reason they lost was not because of coaching. The reason they lost in the end was not because of his game plan. It's because, the Buckeyes do have more talent.
That's it. That's what it came down to, Nate. It flat out, their players bested their players. You know what I mean? So that's really what it came down to. They weren't able to finish out the game. But were they fighting the whole game? And look, when they had opportunities, did they make them? Yes. But down the stretch, it was too much talent for them.
Yeah, and to be honest, Autumn Bell, which, James Bonneville, who is my resident expert on Minnesota, he's going to come on this show with us sometime, just break down. He knows more about Minnesota than I know about my own arm. He's just tapped into that program, and he said that Autumn Bell is going to be an unbelievable player. Well, he didn't play one snap. He tried to go before the game, their number one wide receiver, and he could not get it done. He was injured. And then, their running back, Ibrahim, he goes for 30 carries, 163 yards, and 2 touchdowns before he gets injured. So in the end of the third quarter and the fourth quarter, they didn't have their number one wide receiver, and they didn't have their badass senior bowling ball running back. You put both those guys on the field, there might be a different outcome. And I hate saying that because I am a Buckeye homer, and my blood is red, and not just because everyone else's is. Mine's more scarlet. But I'm just being honest. If both those guys play and Ibrahim doesn't go down with injury, I don't know if we win that game.
We forget that. So Ibrahim's from DMV. I've known him since he was at Good Counsel. He actually went to the same high school as Diggs.
Yeah.
Diggs and Dorian O'Daniel and Kendall Fuller. They all played together. They won 4 straight championships in high school.
Wow.
But yeah, they came in as freshmen, dominating. But listen to me. Ibrahim was the leading rusher in the Big Ten last year. That's what people forget.
Yeah.
He was the leading rusher, and he's been consistent like that since he got there. He's a ball player, and to see him go down, it was kind of like deflating the footballs. You could tell.
Yeah.
Like the leader of their football team, and when he went down, it was like, ball game.
Yeah. And you know what? And I'm not here to be critical of all, of coaches. I guess sometimes I am. But I know, how difficult it is to be a coach in Division I. I mean, in any division, it's a difficult thing. I mean, just talking to you like I do, I know how much time you guys put in. I know how much effort. And I love Kerry Coombs, the defensive coordinator for Ohio State. He's a great guy. He's a tremendous coach. He's a great man. But, there's that word, but. I worry about him a little bit with his scheme. He's a great recruiter. He's an excellent DB coach. But at times, the defense looks confused as to what they're supposed to be doing. We've got all this talent up front, and at times there's no pass rush, and everybody's wide open. And I'm like, that concerns me a little bit.
Nate, I was I almost looking for that pass rush we were talking about. I was looking for it, Nate. The defense was definitely the weak link. The defense was not sound Thursday night, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, come on, you got all these guys over there, all these big names, and it's holes in defense. It wasn't really a great pass rush. I was surprised, honestly.
Well, I was too, and we saw some of JTT, JT Talamula. He played a little bit, got involved, but he wasn't really, back in the backfield a ton. And Jack Sawyer played a little bit. The two big time #1 recruits, D end. Sawyer played a little bit too, but the big play came from Malik Harrison, and if he doesn't do that strip sack and Haskell Garrett pick it up and run that thing back, we don't win that game either. So that was a huge play, and that's what I want to see more of. You've got to have the right defense called and get these guys in the right place to make plays, and that's what I think he's not doing, and that concerns me. We also, to be honest and to be fair to the team, to be fair to Coach Coombs, we were missing some guys. We were missing both starting corners.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Seven Banks did not play. I'm forgetting the name of the other corner who's a junior, but he also did. Cameron Brown, I think he did not play either. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with either of those guys, but we had two true freshmen out there on the corners.
Yeah, that makes more sense. That makes a lot more sense.
And they, you know what? Those kids actually did very, very well, considering that was their first time out there. But we were thin at corner, and then Proctor went down. Our best safety, he got injured and went out of the game. So we had a bunch of dudes out there in the secondary that had never played before, and it showed up because they were picking up third downs left and right, and I hope they get that fixed. I hope that they come up with a little bit better scheme because we got a matchup next week. We got Oregon coming to town, so it doesn't get any easier.
Hey, what do you think? What's the prediction?
Man, I don't know. We'll get into it. I think. I think we can beat Oregon. Thibodeau went down with an injury in their game. We'll talk about their game a little bit later, but, he's in a walking boot, so I need to know whether or not he's going to play because he's a difference maker. But we'll talk about the Oregon team here in a minute, but I think the Buckeyes can get it done. I saw enough from C.J. Stroud in the second half. I mean, talk about a tale of two halves. He was shook in that first half. I mean, he was nervous, which rightfully so. He's 18 years old. He's never thrown a pass in a game in his life, and it looked like it in the first half. I got to admit, I was nervous. I wasn't okay. I was calling for him. I got to be honest, and I was wrong. I admit it. That's why Ryan Day gets paid $6 million and I don't. He stuck with this guy and put him back out there in the second half and believed in him, and that was the correct move because he was unbelievable in the second half. Now it also helps to have Chris Olave, to have the running backs they've got. My boy, as I mentioned in our preview show, Travion Henderson looked amazing. Mayan Williams looked amazing. Garrett looked amazing. I mean, they've got talent all over the place, and CJ Stroud calmed down and just executed the offense, which is all you got to do when you've got those players around you.
I got it.
All right, well let's stay in the Big Ten for a minute and talk about the game that went on at 12 noon, high noon up in Badger country with Wisconsin versus Penn State. Both teams, both both teams, struggled a litlittle bit last year. But I got to be honest, I was impressed with both of them on Saturday. Both defenses played really well, and Penn State looked like a different team. And Sean Clifford did enough to get it done. And Mertz, and I'm not, this is just my opinion, but everyone talks about how great Mertz is before the game, and Matt Leinart does an interview with him on game day for 20 minutes about how his dad copyrighted his name for the NIL, and he's prepared with his trademark. Well, buddy, you got to go out and play good before you're going to make any money off that copyright, because he struggled again, and they talk about how great he is, but it's one thing to talk about, it's another thing to do it.
Yeah. And
what was your thoughts on the battle between Penn State and Wisconsin?
They both prepared, man. I'll say that they both had pretty good training camps. Guys were flying to the football defensively. You could tell. You could tell that they practiced the right way and put time in. I was not surprised with the outcome. It's James Franklin. He's a heck of a ball coach. If anybody can get the team going, he can. He does a really good job recruiting for the players that he needs. So I wasn't surprised. He's 3-0 now, since he's been there at Penn State against Wisconsin. That's huge. I mean, with no slouch program, and he came in there and started off his career 3-0 against them. Kudos to Coach Franklin. But like I said on our last show, he's a motivator. He's a great recruiter, and he knows how to run a program.
This is a guy that won 9-10 games a year at Vanderbilt.
Think about that.
Think about that for a second.
Yep.
In the SEC, it's not like Vanderbilt left the conference for those years that James Franklin was here. They still played in the SEC and won 9-10 games annually. So there's no doubt in my mind he is an excellent coach. And I got to be honest, it looked like a different team. I know they were missing tons of guys last year. Micah Parsons opted out. Their Freiermuth, their tight end, opted out. They had injuries. They had COVID problems. I throw that year out for them too, honestly, because I feel like yesterday was more of an indicator of their talent level and what they bring to the table. I was very impressed. They won 16-10. It was a defensive battle, but Clifford, he did enough. I don't think he was terrible. He didn't turn the ball over, which was his biggest problem last year. And if Penn State can get their running game going and, get Noah Cain, run the football, I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. What do you think?
They'll be fine. They'll be fine. You limit turnovers. You'll be fine. It's just they get more time to practice and things will bounce back.
Yeah, I agree. I think Penn State's going to be solid, and I expect them to have a good season. And I got to be honest, I'm not a big Penn State guy, obviously, but I do. I hate Penn State, but I was a huge Joey Porter guy when I was growing up and watching Joey play for the Steelers and for Colorado State in college. Some people don't know that, but I watched him play in college. I'm so old. And I saw him play for the Dolphins. And I loved Joey Porter, dude. And
back home growing up, Nate.
Oh my God, he was a legend. The fire that guy. I mean, he was a tremendous athlete and a great player, but the fire that he brought was amazing. And his son, Joey Porter Jr., plays for Penn State and is a corner for them. He was all Big Ten first team last year in a down year for Penn State, and he's a baller, dude. That guy's his son's gonna be playing on Sunday, in my opinion.
I agree. Hey, that's that connection again. That's that connection. James Franklin had that DMV for years, and that's where Joey Porter's from.
Yeah,
telling you, he gets the best guys out of that area every year. Now he got to compete with Loxley now, though.
Yeah, he does. He does. But you know what? They had you could tell that Penn State had some talent out on that field. They went up into a very tough place to play in Madison, Wisconsin, in a packed house. With those fans haven't been in the stadium in over a year and a half, and they were ready to go. And to go in there and win that game, I think was huge for Penn State and for their program going forward. So big win for James Franklin. Didn't surprise me, to be honest, because I expected them to bounce back. And he's a pretty damn good coach, and he proved it at high noon yesterday. So we talk about that. We also going to have to talk a little bit about your boy Lincoln Riley. They were supposed to go down to New Orleans and play Tulane yesterday, but obviously due to the hurricane situation, the game had to be moved. And, Tulane had a tall order to beat the Sooners to begin with, and then you change the game that's supposed to be a home game and make Tulane travel to Boomer Soonerland. And hell, they almost pulled it out, man. What'd you think about the Sooners' performance on game one?
They won the game, and that's what's most important. You won the game, you get a chance to fix things and get better, and you still got a 0 in that loss column. That's the most important thing. Maybe that's the tune-up the scare that they needed, as my guy said. That thing right there might set them off for the rest of the season. And so a bunch of people talking trash about what's my QB, Spencer. He threw 2
Spencer Rattler,
Spencer Rattler, but he was 30 or 39 for 300 yards. Like relax. This was a tune-up game for him that just almost cost them. It almost cost them, but they survived, and I'm sure that Lincoln Riley will have them even better next week. I'm not worried about them.
No, I'm not either. I think Tulane's a pretty good football team.
That's all it is. They're an improved football team. They're better than what the average football fan thought. So we're, the average football fans just telling people, oh, Oklahoma's down. I'm like, no. Give kudos to Tulane's coach. They came out to play with the big boys.
Yeah, no, I agree. That quarterback, Michael Pratt, he's a big-time player. 27 of 44, 296, 3 touchdowns. He also ran 15 times for 34 yards and a touchdown. You got to remember, in college, every time he gets sacked, those yards are deducted. So he actually ran for more than that. And he had a big-time game, man. And Tulane's, I've watched that program develop because, my alma mater, Knox Catholic, that we talk about a lot. They've had some kids go down there. Chase Kirshen went down there and played 4 years. And I watched that program, change, and they're about it right now. I think Tulane's going to have a pretty good year, and these kids were motivated to play. They didn't give a crap where they were playing. They just wanted their shot at Oklahoma. And I don't know if you saw the final play of the game, but they tackled Michael Pratt with about a yard to go, and they could have kept that drive alive. So I'm with you. I think the Sooners will be fine. They may get leapfrogged by Georgia in the polls, but as you know, my feeling on the beginning of the year polls, that doesn't really matter. I think the Sooners will be there at the end.
Yep, I agree.
So we can pretty much chalk that up to first game action, but I think the Boomer Sooner will be all right. The other game, we're going to get to underdogs of the week here in a second, but I do want to just touch on your boy Mac Brown. I heard him doing an interview before the game, and he was talking about how his Tar Heels were going to win the ACC, and how they were asking him how they were going to replace Michael Carter and Williams, their 2,000-yard rushers, and Brown, their badass wideout. And he's like, oh, we got the depth that we need right now. This is our deepest team ever. You went down, bud.
Right away.
Justin Fuente kicked your ass. and you lose week 1. So I'm not sure old Mac knows what he's talking about, but I'm not as high on Hal, the quarterback at UNC, as some people are. I think he's a good player, but when they play good teams and they play in big games, sometimes he doesn't look like a big-time QB in my mind. What do you think about that one?
Well, it's easier to do your job when they're focusing on somebody else doing another job. And that was the case last year. I mean, the defenses were so consumed with stopping their two backs who started in the country. They're willing to give some pass plays. And I think that's what happened. They don't have to focus on the run game from UNC, and they can put together a full game plan, and that's your result. You took an L first game. You don't have those 2 thunder backs back there. And that's all it is. Do I think Sam Howell's a back? No, I do not. Not at all. He can play football. You just make him look even better when you got 2 all-star running backs back there. I mean, any quarterback's going to look better with 2 all-star running backs who are running for 150, 200 yards a game apiece. Come on now.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I don't think people talked enough about those 2 running backs. I mean, 1,000 yards apiece from Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. I mean, both those guys had 1,000 yards. And there, like you mentioned, there was several games last year where both of them went over 100.
Yes.
And that's, it's tough to beat a team when you got 2 guys that both are running over going over the century mark. So, I think they found out how good those guys were in game 1, because it's going to be tough to replace the type of production that they got out of both those running backs and De'Ami Brown, that badass wide receiver who seemed to always be open last year for Mr. Howe. So let's do it. I'm going to let you start it off, man. We're going to do our underdogs of the week real quick. Why don't you kick it? You go first and tell me who was your underdog team of the week.
I'm going to give you a team and a player. It's 2 separate, all right? The team is ETSU over. They were given a golden opportunity, and they seized the moment. They just controlled the ball. They had the possession by 10 more minutes of the game. Come on. This is Quay Holmes, 23 carries, 149 yards. There's your time of possession right there. Quarterback played a pretty good game, 13 of 22, 135 yards, a touchdown, no turnover. Vandy only had 82 yards rushing. Think about that. You can't win a ball game that way. ETSU had 180, 179, I rounded it. But they were given an opportunity to come play, a bigger program. Hey, and they game planned it. No turnovers. What do they say? The team that makes the fewest mistakes will win. And that's what happened, man. So kudos to them. But my underdog player of the week is from Presbyterian.
84 points.
Hey, listen to me. Was it Ren? Ren is his first name, Heffley. 38 of 50. Okay? 538 yards. 10 touchdowns, no turnover. He threw for 10 touchdowns. I don't care if you're playing Little League. If you throw for 10 touchdowns, you get you a trophy. He gets for the weekend. 38 of 50, not one interception, 538 yards passing, 10 touchdowns. I didn't misread that. 10 touchdowns. So
I mean, that's a video game season.
You're playing NCAA 2014 or something. Like, how do you do that? You're a legend there at Presbyterian College.
Some people don't even know where Presbyterian is. That's down in Clinton, South Carolina. And, man, what a performance. I mean, you put 84 points on the board. You're doing something right.
Yep, those are my 2 guys. My program and my player. What do you have for the underdog this week?
All right. So my underdog, as we talked about, we discussed this a little bit before we got on the air. They may not have been a huge underdog, but let's be honest. I mean, UCLA has been down. This is a program that, has a ton of tradition. But as me and you both know, tradition don't get you much these days. Ask Nebraska what tradition gets you in today's college football. Ask this team down the street what tradition gets you these days. Ask that team up north, who I don't even say their name, what it gets you. Nothing. And what you have to do to get out of a hole is to get a coach. And they went out and got Chip Kelly. And let's be honest, it's been a process, man. I mean, that program was down, and a lot of people have been critical of Chip. Well, I want to see those people right now, and I want you to come and tell me how critical you are of Chip Kelly after last night. They dominated LSU on the offensive line. Their offensive line dominated their defensive line all night long. There was holes to run through. Now, let's be honest, Chip's offense is a little schemy. He's got some misdirection. There's always guys running one way and he's running the other way. They run kind of a zone concept running game, but UCLA was very impressive to me. I love their quarterback. He is one of my favorite players. This is a kid who, he's been in that program for 4 years. And he's had ups and downs, but he's stuck it out. And I really like him. I've just been a fan of Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Last night, he didn't have to throw it a ton. He only threw it 16 times, but he completed 9 of them for 260 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then he ran the ball when he had to and got some big carries. But what can you say about their running back? I'm sticking right there with my underdog performer of the week. He's not really an underdog, but their team was an underdog, and Zach Carbonet ran 11 times for 117 yards and just showed a tremendous burst. I like Britton Brown too. He almost ran for 100 yards as well, but Carbonet, man,
explosive.
That guy is just, I love watching him run the football because, like you said, he's explosive. He can cut, he can dip, he can do everything with the ball in his hands. And I think UCLA is for real. I think Chip, I think they got a chance to have a really good season this year. I mean, are they going to go to the college football playoff? Nope. But they got a chance to win 10 games, I think. If they play like they did on Saturday.
So here's where I differ with you, Nate. I think this was more of a clash of coaching styles and schemes than it was UCLA necessarily being back. I mean, you got to remember LSU was down last year too now.
Oh, yeah.
They're not as good as people think. But I will say this West Coast coaching, especially when you get to Chip Kelly's coaching stuff, like you said, it's misdirection. It's just a lot of trickery involved and finesse. Yep. And you mix that up with hard-nosed football, a pretty simpler game plan, and that scheme overtook, LSU schemes the other day. I want to see how that offense performs in the Pac-12 where everybody's kind of finesse, okay? That's when you're going to be able to tell if they've made progress or not. I don't necessarily think a win over LSU is huge right now. That was more of a clash of coaching styles. The scheme was different. LSU wasn't prepared for that scheme. It was position blocking, a lot of zone, stuff like that. It wasn't a whole lot of power and things like of that such, which is what LSU is used to playing in the SEC. I'm curious to see how you do against I was going to say Washington, but we're going to talk about that later. Against a USC or against a Cal's defense, against a Utah, I want to see how it looks then. Because these people are used to your offense that you run. And now, does the win count? Yeah, it's big. It's a big win for them. But it's not as big as people make it out to be. I don't think LSU is elite right now.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think they've taken a step back, but let's be honest. I mean, LSU's got some dogs up front. They do. They have some defensive linemen that are going to be playing on Sunday. They always do. They've got their wide receiver is just as good. Keyshawn Butte, however you want to say it, he is just as good as, these other kids, Justin Jefferson and, your boy Chase and the Bengals now. I mean, this guy is unstoppable. And he was pretty much unstoppable yesterday. 9 catches, 148, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
but the only thing that I was impressed about was the UCLA offensive line, the UCLA defensive line. They held their own against LSU. That was surprising to me.
They did, and I was surprised by that. They were moving those boys. I will say that. They were moving those boys. And I didn't expect it. So
there was holes to run through now, and I expected LSU to, I don't think this isn't Joe Burrow's LSU team, but I expected them to hold up on the run, and the UCLA ran for 223 yards, and LSU ran for 49 yards. So that's the difference in the ball game right there.
Ball game. 43 yards rushing, 40 anything rushing. Unless you threw for 400 plus, that's going to be an L.
Yeah, I agree. And, the UCLA plays Fresno State next week, which, they put up a pretty good fight yesterday against Oregon. And, Oregon came out with the victory, but it was a hard-fought victory. And, I don't know if it's more about Oregon playing bad or, Fresno State just playing pretty well. And, you got to give credit to Anthony Brown, dude. I love this guy. He's electric. Every time that Oregon needed a big play, he came through. Mm-hmm. And I think Oregon's going to be all right. And I can't wait to see Anthony Brown play in Columbus. But they got the win and beat Fresno State 31-24. What did you think about that game?
It's good football, like much better football than anticipated. Those guys have been working. Both teams were working, and they put out a pretty good final product. Like you said, your guy Brown, every time they wanted to go to him, he made a play. He made a play. So they were prepared, and it was just there had to be a loser.
Yeah.
That's all that was. Preparation was there. Everybody knew what they were doing. Guys were blocking. Guys were flying to the football. It was a good body of work, if you ask me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. I think both those teams are going to be all right. And, people forget, but Fresno State's had some good football teams out there over the years. And maybe they're coming back a little bit. That quarterback played pretty well, finished 30 of 43 for 298 yards and a touchdown. Mm-hmm. So I think Oregon will be just fine. And I think it's going to be a tough test against Ohio State. Oregon coming to town right after that, hard fought victory against Minnesota. I think Oregon will play them tough. So we'll see what happens. We're about to run out of time here, but I did want to touch on Texas, Louisiana, Sarkisian's first game down in Austin. What'd you think about that one?
He's rolling. I like the run game. I like the energy the guys came out playing with. That's how you want to start. You want to stamp your first victory, and that's fact. You could tell all the guys were juiced up. Everybody was excited to play their part in the game. And he may be on to something. And I'm sure the SEC's watching, because they'll be there soon enough. And I think he understands the importance of building, an even bigger brand before you make that transition. And that's what it looked like they're playing for. They're playing big boy football right now. I love when a team can just run over people. And was it Bijan Robinson?
Bijan, yeah.
Hey, I like him.
I like him too.
He's a real back. I like him. I like a couple of those young D linemen that they have too. Those guys are playing football.
Well, Bijan, I really loved him coming out of high school. Obviously, he was a 5-star, heavily recruited. But the thing I like him is he's such a complete back. I mean, this is a guy, 20 carries, 103 yards on the ground. but he had 4 catches for 73 yards and a touchdown through the air, averaging 18.3 a catch. So this guy's a playmaker, man. Whether he's running the ball or whether he's catching the ball, he can make it happen. And Louisiana's no pushover anymore. I love their coach. Napier does a great job. I like their quarterback, Levi Lewis. He didn't have the greatest game, but, I still think they're a pretty good team. And I know they lost their running back who got drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. So, they're replacing a pretty good player too. So I do think that, Texas came out and showed up. I mean, Hudson Card, their freshman quarterback, played tough, and that was a big win for them. And, going back to the Big Ten, I got to be honest, I was a little bit surprised by what happened to the Hoosiers. Indiana, Michael Penix had a tremendous year last year and really one of the greatest seasons in Indiana football history. And yesterday, it did not look good. Iowa took it to them. I was not expecting that. I don't know about you.
No, we talked about Penix. I was excited. Things just didn't go their way. Iowa showed up, the better team. They played better ball. They limited them at everything. Rushing, passing. Guys were assignment sharp and sound, fundamentally sound, and that's the outcome you get, Nate.
Yeah. No, it's true. And, Penix, 2 pick sixes, 3 interceptions overall, but nobody was open.
Nope.
The quarterback gets all the blame when you lose and gets all the praise when you win. But, he didn't have his best game, but he didn't have anybody open. And, Iowa dominated them from the get. And Iowa looked pretty good. We'll see. Iowa's that team, in my opinion, that always starts out like 7-0, 8-0, and they're ranked in the top 10. Everybody talks about how great they are, and then they lose 5 straight. So we'll see how they are at the end of the season. But they look pretty good. Their counterpart down the road there, Iowa State, who we talked about being ranked in the top 10 in the preseason, they did not fare quite as well, and they struggled against Northern Iowa and ended up squeaking out a victory 16-10. But, man,
we called it.
That made me nervous.
Yeah, we called it. I wasn't sold on them. Do I think they're a solid program? Yes, but just not top 10. That's not where they belong.
No.
But
number 7 in the country and almost losing to Northern Iowa at home. Not good. And Brock Purdy, man, that guy should have gone to the NFL after his sophomore year because things have not gone well since then. And didn't have a terrible game yesterday, but just not the breakout performer, game-changing quarterback that he was as a sophomore. I can't put my finger on what's changed, but they've struggled a little bit. So we'll see if they can come back and bounce back from it. I like their coach Matt Campbell, but winning 16-10 at home in your opener against Northern Iowa, not a good look in my opinion.
Right. Nate, I got to get out of here. I got a meeting about to start up.
We're done, man. We are good to go. Appreciate you. Man coverage.
Baby.
Week 1 is done. Tune in next week, 11 a.m. right here. Same bat time.
Let's get it.
Same bat channel.
Let's do it, Nate. I'll get with you soon.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. Thanks for showing up.
Hey, we're good. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy